Burns, Tom. Just want to introduce myself. First of all, I'm Jeff Rombach. I'm the Alumni Board President this year. It's a long list of great presidents out there, right, Timmy? Come on up, Burns. And again, probably rightfully so, we should thank Tony Conroy for his work in the past year. It was obviously a huge spring and summer season with the bicentennial. The bicentennial celebration was amazing. Tony and Dick and I and Burns and a bunch of other people were in weekly meetings for that, all with the development committee, who did an amazing job. And that was a really great time for Tony to kind of step up, and he did. Tell you briefly about myself. I was class of 98, played racquetball here, state champion in 98, top 10 in the US, coached, I moved back to St. Louis in 2007, coached 11 amazing St. Louis U High teams here. Some with Hoffman's dad, most of them with Hoffman's dad. Most of them were national champions. As you know, the program's been incredibly successful. I'm the head of Stifel Bank's U.S. Commercial Real Estate Group. My wife's from Mexico, which is really colorful and fun. I have 3 kids, a daughter, Camila, and 2 sons, Javier and Alejandro. When they were born, I texted Craig Hannick. I said, boys, and he just texted back, we'll take them. But again, I wanted to have the team up with me. So since Mark is up here, he can start off, and Dick and Tom, if you can come up and introduce yourselves too. But Burns?
Evening, everyone. Mark Burns, class of 93, one of the fellow officers. Not much to tell. I'm a partner at the Onder Law Firm here in St. Louis. Married, had a baby about a year ago. She'll be 1 on the 13th of September. So looking forward to that party. But everything else, yeah, grew up in South St. Louis. Happy, it was a great school. I'm glad to be here and give back to the school for the last 16 years as a member of the Alumni Board.
I'm Dick Meehan Jr. I'm class of 1970. My wife and I have 2 kids. One is our son, Rich, who will be introduced in a little bit. He's one of the new guys on the Alumni Board, class of 2010. And we've got a daughter, Maureen, who's class of 2012 at St. Joe's Academy. And she's in, Officer Development School, I guess, in Rhode Island in the Navy. And she's going to work at Walter Reed Hospital for a 3-year commitment. Basically, the way this board operates is we have one guy who's the boss, and that's Jeff. And then we have 3 guys who are officers. So what you do is you stay officer, officer, officer. On year number 4, you become the president here. So I look forward to working with you guys this year.
And my name is Tom Ehrman. I am the class of 1971. I am married to a wonderful woman who puts up with me. And very succinctly, I am the FNG. For those of you that know what that means, you'll understand. I am, and my job when I was here to Rombach was I bought beer for the guys who were on a football and basketball team because I had a fake ID. So I look forward to working with each of you, and please come forward with your questions or your comments, and we'll be glad to listen. Thank you very much.
And then I know there's a lot of new members in the crowd, and if anybody is new tonight, new to the board, or haven't been here in a long time, we're hoping that you could stand up and introduce yourself. You should meet Bob Wacker if you haven't yet. He's here tonight. He's in Gabe's. We had an unfortunate thing happen a few weeks back, I think. 2 weeks back, John Munweiler, who was a great member of the board, the SLUH community, very caring person, a friend to most of us, he passed. And Joe's going to say a little bit about John.
Thanks, Jeff. I don't take the podium very often here. I'm a lot more comfortable behind the scenes, but I didn't want to let this one pass without saying a little something, for John Munweiler. As Jeff said, John died quite suddenly a little over 2 weeks ago of leukemia. He was at the Father Hagen Alumni Cup in June, and it was really a month-long process from the time he was diagnosed until he succumbed. And some of you may be wondering, we have a lot of alums die. Why are we taking the time to recognize John Munweiler? Well, I do the database here. Actually, we have about 130 to 150 alumni die every year. And the reason we're going to take some time to recognize John Munweiler of class of 65 is this. He was the former president of this board. He was, several years ago, I went to a funeral for a Jesuit, and one of the eulogists said he was a Jesuit's Jesuit. I remember some baseball player died, and one of the other ball players said he was a ball player's ball player. Well, John Munweiler was an alumni board rep's alumni board rep. He did everything. He was at every meeting. Not only did he serve his 4 years as an officer and serve his year as a president, he volunteered every opportunity he got. He was at every event. I mentioned that he was at the Father Hagen Alumni Cup. He didn't play, and we didn't ask for volunteers. He just showed up because some of his classmates were playing, and he wanted to be there and enjoy some camaraderie with his classmates and see if we needed any help. So that's the kind of thing he always did. So he did so much for this school, for this group, for this organization. And if it doesn't sound I hope this doesn't sound less than humble, but for me personally, he was so close to the school and to this group and to me that I really wanted to take some time to talk a little bit about him and say a prayer for him. He did not only did his phone-a-thon every fall, like every good alumni board rep does, he would then, like in February, start calling me and say, who hasn't given yet for my class? I want to get the guys together, Ed Rata and Paul Stubbe and Mick Engel, a couple of his classmates. I want to get the guys together, and we're going to do some follow-up calls. And then he called me again in April. This year, he called me in the last week in June, 5 or 6 days left in the fiscal year before we end on June 30th. Well, who hasn't given? I want to get one last step. I want to make sure we're up in that top. If we're not going to be top, maybe we'll be in the top 2 or 3. And he did that every year. It was just touching how much he believed in this school and how much he did for us. And so I just wanted to offer a quick prayer in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Eternal rest grant unto him, O Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon him. May his soul and the souls of all the faithful departed rest in peace. Amen. Thank you. Now we'll resume our meeting.
Thanks, Joe. I think this picture of John really sums him up as well. I mean, if anybody who had ever met him, if that's not exactly how he looked when he came to say hi to you, he never had a straight face. It was always that exact smile. But he was a great guy. Now we can move into our guest speaker. We have a really amazing thing here at SLUH going on, and I'm going to introduce Mr. Jeff Pitts, who's a volunteer here at SLUH, and I have a small bio for him, but I actually learned some interesting stuff within the last 5 minutes. He obviously has a very storied career. He has a Bachelor of Engineering from Rolla, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on any of these when we get into it. MBA from SLUH, 32-year career with Anheuser-Busch, Senior General Manager of the St. Louis Brewery, which I believe is the largest in the country for Anheuser-Busch. He has since retired from that. He's a volunteer here, and he works on the Clavius project and the STEM initiatives. But I think probably the most telling thing is we were talking, he kind of said, I don't really want to be known for all that. I want to be known as I'm messing this up, but I think somebody who promotes faith, promotes progress in others, and promotes the future in others, which is really telling of who somebody wants to be and kind of about Jeff. So without further ado, Jeff Pitts.
Well, it's an honor to be here. I do know a few of you guys. I'm a past parent. I had 3 boys who graduated from here. Full disclosure, I'm not an alum, but I'm married very, very well. Very, very well. I'm really here to talk to you about 4 things that I've been involved with as a volunteer here at St. Louis U High. And when I think about it, some instances I just think it's a great coincidence that I was pulled into these things. Other times I think it was just God's grace and a blessing for me to be able to do these things. 4 exciting things that are happening around STEM at St. Louis U High. In the basement, it's electric down there, literally. We're running electricity. We've got jackhammers going on. But we're about to initiate a startup, a 5,200 square foot innovations lab. And I'll give you a little bit of a preview of that. I want to talk a little bit about the RoboBills, the Super Mileage Challenge team, and then what I spend most of my time doing, which is the Clavius project at SLUH, which is a natural outcome of the goodness that is here at St. Louis U High and the emergence of STEM here at the school. So the Innovation Lab, originally we were going to kind of do a big thing on the Innovation Lab, but honestly, there's not a lot to see down there. But from somebody who's done engineering and construction work, it's pretty exciting to see what is starting to take shape down there. We've got 3 just artist renditions, but that 5,200 square foot Innovation Lab kind of came to be after the strategic planning effort about 5 years ago, Strategy 18. To give our boys, our students here at St. Louis U High, a place to be hands-on, to sort of play around with what they learn in the classroom in a very fun, sometimes competitive, but in a very enriching way. They learn about physics, they learn about chemistry, they learn about computer science. In this new lab, they'll be able to create things, they'll be able to innovate, which is very exciting. There'll be a shop where they'll get dirty and hopefully keep all their fingers. There'll be an area where they'll be able to do project-based learning and groupthink. And it's a space that'll be very inviting. And so I'm sure at a later time, we'll take you through, give you all a tour, take you through some of the ins and outs, some of the details. But for me, this is kind of the what. This is the excitement. This is the what. And what I want to talk about next is a little bit of the why. If you think about our environment right now between our students that are coming to St. Louis U High, they've grown up with technology. They've come to really like technology, and a few of them are really addicted to technology, right? If you think about boys and learning, Dr. Thompson taught us a few years ago that there are 5 things that really light the fire of boys when they learn. I remember 3 of them. They're up and around, messing around, they're using their hands, and they're in a competitive environment, okay? And so that's around us now as we understand more about how boys learn. And then in the United States, I'm chairman of the board of Rankin Technical College, and we look at the data all the time. It's about a year old, but there are 5.8 million STEM jobs available here in the United States. They're either not filled, partially filled, or temporarily filled, from welders to engineers and scientists. It's an incredible movement. And what our boys get to do here are just a couple of things. We have the RoboBills. This is a robotics team that was formed about 5 years ago, and it's been 5 years of innovation, okay? It is a student-formed, student-run organization. In the middle of the season, I'm told at least 3 or 4 times, Mr. Pitts, you know, this is a student-run organization. You know, they just, you guys know it, the SLUH boys, they just want to do things. And over that time, they've been able to make incredible progress, okay? They are, when I think of their first year, I wasn't involved the first year, but every year I've been involved after that, you can just see them progressing and how they use technology, how they apply it. It's just phenomenal. And their performance has improved along the way as well. They learn about leadership. They learn about organization. They are a self-managed group, and what they do is phenomenal. And the really cool thing from a competitive standpoint, 3 of the last 5 years, they made the championship round. And in fact, this past year, they had a robot, and put it up here on the screen. It was incredibly reliable. It did what it was designed to do very, very well. And while we were paired with other teams maybe that performed a little less than we did, when it came time to select those teams that were in the championship round, we were one of the first teams selected because the boys put together something phenomenal. The really cool thing about this, it's a 6-week season. You have to design, conceptualize, design, build, prototype, and then get it up and running. The first 4 weeks, they just tread water. They couldn't figure it out. They weren't sure what they're going to do. They had all sorts of debates and discussions. Finally, week 5, so they have 2 weeks left, they come up with this. And it was phenomenal. And not only do you see the creativity and the innovation, but you see them spending long hours and staying dedicated to the task. It was an incredible process. So this is part of the why. When we think of the Innovation Center, why do we need an Innovation Center? We have the environmental things that are happening out there, but you've got all sorts of cool things happening here at SLUH, and the Robo-Bills are one of them. Another one sort of came out of nowhere about 3 years ago. I asked the robotics guys, hey, would you be interested in building a vehicle and doing the super mileage challenge thing? They're like, no. And then Anne-Marie Lodholz, okay, the sustainability moderator, gets everything done around sustainability, heard about this thing, you know, started asking all sorts of questions, figured out that I was linked to Rankin and said, we want to do this. Holy cow. In their first year, okay, they did exceptionally well. Essentially, they basically build a vehicle from scratch. It's sponsored by Rankin Technical College, but 80% of the members of the team are from St. Louis U High. And these guys are enthusiastic. They're committed. They come in every Saturday for about 3.5 to 4 hours. And they're not just conceptualizing, designing, and somebody else is making it for them. They had a welding competition, okay? How many SLUH High guys know how to weld, okay? Well, the 14 guys that do the Super Mileage Challenge certainly do, and the guy who won the welding contest is the guy who welded the frame. They learned about engineering concepts, torques, engine performance, controls, you name it. And in their first year, they won the state championship. Okay, just an unbelievable feat for a first-year team. Now, I was sort of expecting it, right? These are SLUH High guys. And in the first year, we had 3 Koryezu girls, okay? A couple of the SLUH High guys said, Mr. Pitch, we need to be a little more diverse. I'm like, well, okay. And they said, well, I've got 3 friends at Koryezu, do it, okay? But it was a great effort. Last year, they fell a little short. They only came in 2nd and 3rd. And then if you look at the screen, the car on the right, they won Best in Show. And that's another thing about the SLUH guys. Not only are they innovative around performance, but they're like, this has got to look really cool as well, okay? So we're excited for them this next year. Both of these efforts are growing. You know, there are some of the ebbs and flows depending on what's happening, but I predict 2018/19 school year are going to be terrific years for both of these organizations. And on top of all this, we have the weather balloon guys, we have the hackers, we have the electronics club. It goes on and on and on. So if you look at the trends, not just environmentally, but here at St. Louis U High, that's what makes the Innovation Center that more exciting. What's really cool to me, and I think to others who know, born out of the emergence of STEM in our students' lives, in St. Louis U High, being a man for others, doing service, giving back to your community, it's only natural that our students here would figure out a way to take STEM and turn it into a service project. So about, I'm going to say 4, maybe 4.5 years ago, the young man you see there in the slide, his name is Eric Berg. I believe he's class of 15. He's a senior at Cornell this year. He's majoring in electrical and robotics engineering. He worked at Tesla last summer, and he worked at SpaceX, or no, he worked at SpaceX last summer, Tesla the summer before. He is an incredible young man. You know, when you hear about some kind of epidemic, you hear about patient zero. Eric was patient zero. Eric was the guy who came up with the idea, you know, we go to this competition, we do whatever we do, but everybody else is doing, you know, they're doing service, their sportsmanship, leadership. Hey, what if we write a grant, get it approved, and take robotics to middle schools here in the city of St. Louis? So Eric and his classmates did so. Joe Packey, I think, was involved in the original grant writing. Steve Nicolarat was sort of a faculty advisor. And sure enough, the Clavius Project was born. And in our first year, we had 9 middle schools and 85 students. And I'll show you the mission statement here in a minute, but this is Most Holy Trinity in our first year there. You can't see him, his head's cut off. But Robbie Eswine is the mentor there. Robbie is a class of 17. So we started with 9 schools, 85 middle school students. This next year we'll be in 44 schools and serving over 1,000 middle school students. It has just exploded. We're not just in Catholic schools, we're in public schools, we're in charter schools. The Jesuits don't believe in just serving the Catholic community, right? They believe in serving the entire community. We're in North St. Louis, we're in South St. Louis, we're in the Center Core. We're in East St. Louis, North County, West County, St. Charles County. And now this year we're gonna serve 6 very rural and financially challenged parishes and schools in the rural South. What we do is very simple. We provide all the robotics kits. We provide all the software, the licensing. We do educator workshops where we train middle school teachers and principals on how to do FLL, Lego Mindstorm robotics. We develop curriculum for inside the school day. We develop curriculum for after school, teachers' aides, everything the school needs so they can start, establish, and grow a robotics program. Because after all, the students in those schools are starting to expect that, right? They want to discover. That's what really floats their boat and what they do. And the magic, very simply, is sending a St. Louis U High STEM geek into the school where they become a coach, a mentor, but more importantly, a big brother. We use some of the girls' schools to help us as well, a big sister. Last year, we had right around 35 St. Louis U High guys in the 27 schools last year that we were serving. And what always happens, it never fails, they reluctantly sign up and do it their first year. Then their second year, especially when they become juniors and seniors, I get an email or I'll have a young man come up to me and say, you know, Mr. Pitts, I did 1 school last year. I could do 2, maybe 3 this year. Robbie, as a senior, was in 5 schools. He was in North St. Louis, East St. Louis. He was in South County. He was in the Central Core, and he was a little west. And he just didn't go to his alma mater. He went wherever we needed him to go. I mean, you talk about a testament to being a man for others. And now he's at Wash U, and he continues to serve and joined us in Belize when we rolled our project out in Belize. That's where the magic happens, and we have a saying with the boys: it is better to be a kingmaker than a king. And they embrace that, they understand it. They were founded on that principle, right? Yeah, they can know all the STEM stuff they want to know, but it is far better, far more gratifying, far more satisfying to see that young man, that young girl really discover and just love what they see. So what we aim to do basically is light the fire, right? We want them to discover STEM, these students. And we have many students who aren't disposed to doing STEM, but it's a way for them to develop their creative thinking skills, work in a project-based learning environment. And we're trying to prepare them for high school, not necessarily academically, but maybe the way they think. And most certainly, when they get to high school, if they've been a part of the Clavius Project, then they start to understand, what do I like? What do I want to emphasize? What do I want to study? And so we try to help them figure that out. And it's really cool to see the St. Louis U High guys in there and those students saying, wow, I want to be like Robbie. I want to be like Will. I want to be like Eric. I want to be like Lewis. Just, it goes on and on and on. So it's a great project. And our mission, I put this up here. I'm not going to read it. But I highlighted 4 things. The Clavius Project at SLUH, it's about STEM. It's helping students to understand what could be in their lives. And we are focused on underserved communities, underserved schools, wherever we're asked to go. And we're growing like wildfire. I think a better testament to this, every year our season basically is in the fall. And then in January, the 3rd Saturday of every January, this will be our 4th Jamboree. It's kind of our capstone event. So the past couple of years, we've been putting together a video. So this year, we put together a video with Rob Chura's help which is sort of a welcoming video to prospective new schools that want to join the Clavius project. But I think it'll give you a pretty good understanding of what we do, okay, and who we serve. So, Joe? Oh, not yet, no, not yet.
The project has been awesome. We are able to offer STEM programming to our students here in St. Louis. All girls, which I love. STEM programming for all girls is so important. It's an amazing opportunity for our students to participate in the robotics program. We've actually got a whole list of people ready to come and participate next year.
It's been a wonderful program for our students and for our mentors. It gives them a chance to get the hands-on where they can do problem solving, but it also gives them a chance to actually put science and math into practice.
As a mentor, your job's kind of twofold. You do help a lot with the kids, like fixing problems, but you're also a friend to them. You really enjoy that part of being a mentor of the Clavius project.
This program has continued to inspire me to get an engineering degree from Washington University, as well as join many different STEM-based clubs.
The most important thing that I think the kids get out of it, besides camaraderie, is finding that they don't have to be perfect the very first time, and how to deal with disappointment and change.
Sometimes we get it wrong and sometimes we get it right. But when we do, we also ask for help. It's made me more interested in science. That's what I like the most, working with my partners.
One of my favorite is the candy sweep, and that's when you're supposed to sweep all the candy out of a certain zone. And that one's really fun. You have to use a lot of creativity to figure that one out.
I have really learned teamwork skills, definitely, because you have to work with a teammate. Working through the program has really developed my program skills and my problem-solving skills.
I think it's very good for people to work together because we had to make sure everything was in the right spot and that everything was working okay. And when we were ready to program, we had to make sure that we had the right amount of turns and rotations.
For all our colleagues and friends,
welcome aboard. It is such an amazing opportunity and experience.
Make the most of it. It's great.
We are so excited to welcome you to the program and to have this be an exciting thing for your students as well.
Your teachers are going to really appreciate the progress that they're going to make.
Congratulations for signing up. We wish you all the best of luck.
You're going to have so much fun. We love it. You all too.
All right, just so you know, Peyton on the right is the personality, Aaron is the brain, just so you know. Two just delightful young ladies at Ascension. Sam, I can't ever pronounce his last name. The young man in the blue hat and the glasses talking about the candy sweep game, he's a freshman at St. Louis U High. Sam did behavioral learning, decision theory, and robot C programming with our robotics program. And I was dead sure he was going to be an engineer. And I said, Sam, what are you going to study in college? Do you know? He goes, business. I go, business? He goes, yeah. I go, well, why are you doing robotics? He said, well, it's introducing me to STEM and technology and computers. I go, well, how? And I sort of thought I would get this. I said, well, how is that important? He goes, I'm going to write a program that's going to maximize my client's wealth, and I'm going to get 10% of it. And I thought, this is a seventh grader, okay? So Sam's at St. Louis U High, and we are starting to see more young men who the Clavius project touches come to the school. And I was just stopped today from a young man from Loyola who wants to do robotics. When they come here as freshmen, there's so much for them to do. But then as they go, they start to discern what they're really interested in. And we had Aries at Loyola Academy 2 years in robotics, and he wants to do robotics this year. So it's a wonderful thing. So you can kind of see this circle, right? You build the innovation center. Out of that, our young men discover and maximize what they're learning around STEM. Then they go out into the community and get middle school kids thinking about it and discovering it. Then maybe they want to come to SLUH where they're going to use the innovation center. I mean, it's a wonderful cycle to have. And lastly, I know we talked a lot about robotics, but we're also providing 3D printers for schools that don't have them. We're starting to do more Robot C, which is first cousin of C++ in the middle schools. We do summer camps. We provide scholarships. We're going to develop a rocketry program. I've got a young man here now, a junior at SLUH, developing our quadcopter program. All of these things we offer to schools at no cost to them. I'm a volunteer, and the other 5 adult volunteers that help us are all volunteers, right? And the boys that help us, they're doing it because it's the right thing to do. It's a beautiful thing. We're very grateful for Melissa and the donor base. We are just blessed with some very generous folks helping us out to make all of this possible. So I thank you, and I will take any questions that anybody might have. Do I have time, Melissa? Okay. Yep. Yeah, so it was a grant from ITEF, which was the Innovation Technology and Education Fund. Boys wrote it, and Joe helped him with that, Steve helped him with that. They asked for 23,000, they got 38. The following year, we had a look, huh?
Good, Mike, we have people listening in.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're on webcast. There you go.
Okay. Hello. So we got the grant the first year from ITEF. The boys wrote it with Joe's help and Steve's help. Originally asked for 23,000, they got 38. That helped us go from 1 closet in the basement to 2. So we were able to expand the space and bring some technology in for the robotics guys. But then we used the bulk of the money to go out to the schools and provide all the things that we provide to them. ITEF has been a supporter of ours, but we have a little bit of a conflict of interest in that Joe Comas is on their board now, so we're a partner with them, but we don't get any financial help from them at this point. Last year, we won 2 grants. One is a strategic partner and one is a writer through the Beyond Sunday campaign. Wells Fargo has sponsored us. The Burgess Family Foundation has been very generous to us. Melissa and the school have been working with Mr. Burgess for a number of years. He loves what we do, and he provides the bulk of our support. And then, can I speak about Mr. Wittenberg? Mr. Wittenberg came through with a very large grant. And then we will get a check for $1,000 from somebody who heard about what we're doing. The example was a trustee on Missouri S&T's board sitting next to a friend of mine who's a judge at one of the jamborees, explaining why she missed the last board meeting or something and then he wrote a check for $1,000. And so it's hard not to be, excited about any of this, especially when you see the young men in those schools doing what they're doing with those middle school students. It's unbelievable. There's a question over here. Yeah. So, oh man, really? I'm a public and you're going to ask me about what's the Clavius thing? So when I first got involved, I agreed to go around to all the schools and sort of, roll this thing out. The boys did a great job they've got the concept, they know what they wanted to do, they got the grant, and then it's like, now what? And they're busy going to school. The faculty are busy teaching. And so it was by chance or God's good graces that Mr. Laughlin asked me if I would want to help, because I had just retired from Anheuser-Busch and told him I had this big grand idea. Well, the boys, I had no clue and taken no action. The boys had an idea, had a clue, and took some action. So I went around to all schools, and I came back to Mr. Laughlin. I said, and Eric Berg, and I said, holy cow, they want to do it. They're all in. But I got to tell you, I tell them we got this thing. We got to have a name. And without blinking an eye, Dave Laughlin said, the Clavius Project. And I go, what is that? He said, Google it. I said, okay. And then when you leave, go look at the theater wall and see if you can find him. So Christopher Clavius, and this was an essay question at our first jamboree and our second, but Christopher Clavius was a Jesuit mathematician, astronomer, scientist. His most famous student was Galileo. And so the Catholic Church, now I'm a convert, so I'm always learning, but the Catholic Church for many years, didn't like Clavius because they thought, well, he's trying to disprove our faith. Finally, Pope John Paul got in there and said, what are you talking about? You guys just don't like Jesuits, okay? This guy was using science, astronomy, and math to prove our faith and to evangelize. So it became the Clavius Project. Now, nobody knows what that is, generally speaking. I even stumped 2 Jesuits, okay? So it's the Clavius Project. Our second year, we always have an essay question, and the second year it was, what was who was Christopher Clavius's most famous student, and know that he was written about in a rock ballad. And so it was Galileo, right? Well, two students from St. Ambrose actually rewrote the lyrics of Bohemian Rhapsody. And of course, it was pretty funny to watch the president of the school sing a line or two of that at the jamboree, but they won the essay contest. But that's the name. It's pretty cool. And the method behind the madness is nobody knows who that is. So when you explain it to them, they get a little bit of knowledge, right? A little bit of appreciation of what has happened and what our Jesuits have done through the centuries to promote, believe it or not, STEM. So it's pretty cool. Yes, sir. We did. We went down to Belize. If you go to, where's Ben Dumont and Alan? If you go to Facebook page and those things, there's a video and there's some photographs, but the Jesuits down there and the educators at St. Martin de Porres. So the Jesuits have a parish, St. Martin de Porres, which is right in the middle of a war zone. A lot of poverty, a lot of gangs, a lot of violence. They also have St. John's College High School and St. John's College, which is a junior college. They heard about Clavius. They asked if we would come down. I said, no, I don't travel internationally. I just don't do that. Well, after some discussion, I said, okay, I'll go. So I went to a retreat. We had a day of planning, and then we committed to 3 weeks. So we were down there. We did educator and mentor workshops with some of the high school students, some of the junior college students, and the faculty of both schools. And then we had 2 weeks of camps. We did middle school students. We did some of the young high school students. And the high school students are younger than the high school students here. They're really 7th and 8th graders there. And they ran circles around us. They did a fantastic job. And so I think you can go to the SLUH website. You'll see some links there. You can watch a video that we put together. It just sort of captures the humanity down there. For me personally, it was transformational experience for me. And is that like my hook? Okay, no. I think Jeff's got the hook. Any more questions? Did I answer your question? So we had 2 SLUH High alums and 2 past parents go down and work with the folks down there. Thank you very much.
Awesome. What an incredible thing. What an incredible guy. Now it's time to get a beer. I know Peniela's going to talk in a second, too. You can always leave when he's talking. We're going to shift gears, and I have a question. How many of you know that this is not just a drinking club? Raise your hand. Not everybody. Not everybody knows. All right. So we do a few things here. One, we always have somebody speak, and there's kind of a format to each session that we do for the fall session, the winter session, spring, and summer. There's a format to it. There's a reason why we had Jeff speak, because you want to learn about the school. Usually it's a faculty member. There's another thing that we do is we always have an address from the president. And the reason we do that is we're ambassadors for the school, and we're supposed to go out and tell the school's story. The third thing we do, which is we're really supposed to be dedicated to this, is help raise money. And so whether it comes from our pocket or our friend's pocket or our class's pocket, we're essentially kind of officers of our class. Everybody's responsible for their class, for being captains of their classes, just like John Munwilder, being really dedicated to reaching out to their classmates, leading their phone-a-thons. So that's what we do. And John's going to come up in a second to talk about this. Not every class is successful at this, and usually it's the classes that aren't a part of this group. The classes that are a part of this group, or the people here, they're usually very successful, and there's a lot of things that we do that make that successful. Like the class of 61, 62, 65, 66, they're amazing. I think Joe put the top 25 classes who all hit the 30% target that we have on the table. That's always kind of SLUH's target, to get our alumni participation to 30%. That always seems incredibly low. Certainly seems low to me, but from a general standard on people that give back to a school, that's actually very high, which is a shame, because I think it should be 60%, 70%, especially for everything. You know, when you look at the amount of scholarships that go out of SLUH to individuals every year, you would think that everybody that got a scholarship, when they're out making money, they would start giving back. So We wanted to take a brief second to give a couple tips, and then Penila is going to come up and talk about the phone-a-thon, which they totally revamped. I was hoping Mick and Pat and Mike could come up for a second. While they're coming up, I'm going to just share what we do in the class of 98. Bob Wacker's here. He's a huge proponent. We've been teaming up on this for years. We've always found the more people calling, the better. We have, I would say, probably 12 people that we call on, and any given year, 7 to 8 of them show up. 10 is best. Oh, sure. We try to recruit new people every year. So when we're calling, if we're talking to somebody, we say, hey, why don't you come out next year? If we can do that, the chances are that person will know 10 people that we didn't know. And that helps our numbers greatly. We take notes. We keep them for the next year. We hit the whole class up early with an email blast and Facebook blast and everything on social media before. And we're kind of we're the beginning of the end of the dummies of social media. Everybody younger than us is way better at that, but we still try and hit it up. We do a ton of texting. The links are all textable now, which is super easy. Whenever it's a one click, it's very easy. Every year or so, we sort of just blow off the standard protocol and we try and find anybody who's never given and just do data mining for a day or two, which I think is, as Joe says, something that John used to do. And I come from a development family. And one thing that I've always learned is if you don't reach people, they won't give. It's not because they don't want to. It's not because they can't. If you don't ask, they won't give. When you do ask and when you do reach out, they will give. There are people out there that say, well, SLUH's never reached out to me. And that's a shame, because it's a shame they feel that way, because it's just because SLUH hasn't found them or they haven't come back to
I guess friend in recruiting. And there's guy, but I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Twitter, Instagram. You pick your poison, use that. There's no easier way, quicker way to get to a lot of guys. And then for me, it's less of a focus on you're gonna be calling classmates for money, because some guys don't want to do that. Focus on the fun. I mean, Joe's giving free beer and pizza. That's what I lead with every year. And you're gonna get more guys interested if they know it's kind of like a mini reunion. Come hang out, have some beer, have some pizza, make a few phone calls and some texts. You get a lot more people interested. You go that route.
Thanks, Mike. Mike continually has a great group of volunteers every year. Next is Pat Meehan from the class of 86. Everyone class in our top 25 this year. One of a few classes from the 80s. So Pat, what's your secrets?
I'm here today with Fred Serber, class of 86, and what we've done is two main things. We never talked about it, and we never worked out a strategy. I think we just did this. Fred now has a little machine in place where he sends out an email to about 10, 12 guys, and we know we're going to get yeses from 5 immediately, 6 guys immediately, and guys that will say, even if they can't do it, I can do it another day. So then we can talk to Joe and say, all right, look, we can get 6 guys, 7 guys there. Can we shift the day? And we shift the day because we can get more guys there. The way we got to that machine was 2 points. First, Fred and I would reach out individually. I know we heard about the mass media and how that works. We'd reach out to one person and say, would you join me? Would you join me? And that one person would. You send out an email to 10 people, maybe they will or won't. But the reason we got to that point where you could send it out and say, will you join us? Because we established that relationship and that machine and that program where we said, would you join me do this? And a personal one-on-one. The second thing was we went outside our bubble. Fred Serber and I, South St. Louis, football together. We hung out since the 90s, 2000s, in each other's weddings. But we reached out to other people. Maybe people we weren't even friends with here. And when we saw them and said, would you help us join? People like to be invited. They like to be included. Doesn't matter if you go to the beach or if you're moving rocks. If you turn to somebody and say, Fred and I and Matt and Tom Burke are doing this. Will you join us? They like to be included. So then we would get 8, 9, 10 guys here because they were included. We're in our bubble. We reached outside.
Mick Engel from the class of 65, one of our top, second or third classes.
Yeah, actually, one of the things that we touched on before, but actually it's John Mundwiller sort of personified this. If you have one person in your class who can be persistent, but not annoying, you can get more people to come to things over and over again. And that's an important thing. You need one person, one contact person that everybody feels comfortable with and can get people to come to phonathons. Also, the personal touch just never goes away. We always make a real effort to contact people that we know and then reach out to people that we don't know, but didn't know personally in class perhaps. But we've all shared the same experience, especially that is true in the mid '60s when you stayed in the same class together. The teachers moved, you didn't. And the third thing is the follow-up. Everybody has e-blasts, and those are very nice, but they're impersonal. And with John's urging, last year we actually made a very concerted effort towards the end of the year to contact people by email and by phone if we could, but on a very personal level. And that makes a big difference. People respond to the personal touch, especially in years like ours where so many people are retired and may not have, for example, a home phone, or may not be at home. They may be traveling, but they usually see their emails. But it has to be a personal touch. It can't be an e-blast. That helps so much.
And finally, Steve Hutchison from class of 68. I think you guys did 40% this year. So Steve, what's your secret?
My class, well, I think the thing about being personal is just really essential. And you can be personal where, frankly, maybe the staff at SLUH High cannot be. So I'll give you, and personal means a lot of things. For me, I send an email out, and this is what brings in 80% of our phonathon money. I just say, it's that time of year ago again, and if you don't want a phone call, then give me a pledge. All right, so we're a cynical class that works pretty well. But I'll tell you the best story about being personal, and it goes back to the class of 65 mixed class and John Munweiler again. My seminal period here at SLUH High was helping raise money for a Habitat for Humanity project here many, many years ago. And we needed to raise $45,000 at a time when SLUH High was raising, at that time, a lot of money. I think it was $10 million for the lower field or whatever. And we were short $10,000, and we somehow convinced Father Costello to allow us to send personalized letters out to each one of our classes. And Munweiler, I think it was the guy that was behind this, he sent a letter out to the class of 65, whose best athlete was Hal Barch, who's the best basketball player I ever saw play right here. And the letter went, if you don't give money, we're going to send Hal Barch out and personally beat the shit out of you. So there's different ways to be impersonal, and you can do that in your class, and you can't do it at a higher level here. So think of what's personal for your class.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks, guys. If you had, and just to keep it short, we won't open it up to the rest of the group, but if you had ideas that we didn't mention, send them to Joe, and we can get an email out to the other groups. I mean, there is a standard way to do this, and there are things that are more successful than others. I think a lot of us have experience in this, and some of us are new, and we can help each other with this. In that regards, John Pania is not here. He was here. Melissa is going to give us an amazing new idea that the development team has about this grand phonathon day, and it's going to be amazing.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks for being here. John sends his regards. He was here earlier, but then was called away by Betsy. Everybody's fine, but he needed to go help out Betsy. So again, thank you for being here. I'm Melissa Jones. I work in the advancement office, as you know, and I'm in my 7th year here. And this is a fantastic community. I look out and see all of your faces. I have come to really admire you, gentlemen, and have a real heart for you and the work that you do for us. So thank you. Thank you so much. And so on that note, I just wanted to give you a little bit of an update as to the success that we've had this last year in annual giving. That's what John was going to do. And just share with you a little bit about it. So early fall, as you know, early fall is typically the direct mail appeal, and that will happen with reunion classes. They'll be receiving their letters about a week after reunions, which this year reunions are for the classes that end in 3s and 8s. So they will see those soon, and then of course we'll be sending letters this fall also from the president and from Jeff Rumbach as president of the alumni board. So everyone will be getting a letter shortly. And then, you know, typically we have our phone-a-thons. It was a huge success last year, and your tips are important. Speak very highly, very well for the work that you do. And they're true that we have 41 classes that participated in 2017 with 104 volunteers. So thank you for being here. There were 3,000 plus personal calls, emails, notes. We love seeing those notes after a phone-a-thon come back to our office, and you guys are fun. It's like, you know, give it up. You know, you guys write these really fun notes on there for your classmates. Again, like Steve said earlier, it's something I can't do, but it's certainly something that you can do. So thank you for that. Wildly successful this year was Giving Tuesday. You know, that's that Tuesday after Thanksgiving. It's kind of become a very popular thing across the country, right, for fundraising. So you have Black Friday, Cyber Monday, the sales, and then Giving Tuesday. Across our United States, and SLUH was no different. We had Giving SLUH's Day. It was a 24-hour period where we had 200 plus gifts and over $40,000 raised on that date. So when thinking about that, we as a team wanted to kind of marry that idea of a giving day and all of our phone-a-thons and bring everyone together. So we'd like for you to save the date, to plan on being with us on Thursday, November 15th. So Thursday, November 15th is a significant day in that it is the day before Friday, November 16th, right? But Friday, November 16th in 1818, well, November 16th in 1818 was the first day of school. This year it's a Friday. So 200 years ago, that was the first day of school. What we're doing this year is having our phone-a-thons the night before on the 15th. So we're going to have a grand phone-a-thon with all of you participating. Please mark your calendars. We'll start with some cocktails and have some fun, lively atmosphere. We'll give you some talking points about how, you know, the dollars that you raise that night support our financial aid. You know, I'm sure many of you are aware this school in the last decade, in the last 10 years, we have went from 1.1 million in direct financial aid to 4.1 million in direct financial aid this year. And we have doubled the number of students on aid from 21% to 42% on direct financial aid. That's huge. And that is because of you, because of our alumni. So thank you for that. So this Thursday, November 15th, grand phone-a-thon, all the classes will be together in this room. It'll be a lot of fun. And we'll be talking about, celebrating, talking about giving you these talking points, getting you excited to have this common message and share in this night and share in this excitement for this one phone-a-thon. So our online day of giving, so we'll start at 6:18, right? Because military time, that's 1818. It's our year we started. So they've thought about this. John Panelia has really given a lot of thought to this, right? So 1818, 6:18 p.m., online day of giving. We'll start the calling. We'll go potentially as late as we need to, but we will be here calling both coasts, everyone in the country. And then on the online day of giving, we'll go through midnight of November 16th. So a full Friday. And that Friday, again, is significant because it was the first day of school 200 years ago, but also it's the Lyda Crewson, the mayor, proclaimed it St. Louis U High Day in the city of St. Louis back in April during our bicentennial. We gave you the proclamation at the bicentennial event. And the boys will be out in the community and they're going to be going to historic sites. So that's a huge day for the school as well. And we'll also be actually launching our the public phase of our campaign. We've talked a little bit with you all about some of the aspects of Go Forth over the last 3 years. I know some of you are acquainted with it, and we've been in, as we've talked about it, we've told you we're in the quiet phase, and we give you little bits of update as we go. But we're going to be taking Go Forth, the campaign that we've been working on now, again, quietly for 3 years. We'll be taking that public. We'll have a special launch celebration that evening on Friday, November 16th. We'd love for you to be a part of it. You'll be hearing more about that. So please, again, plan to be with us, save the date. I think that's pretty much what John was going to cover with you, but we all want all of you here on Thursday, November 15th, and we look forward to seeing you then. Oh, how can you help? One more slide. Make sure that you're here. Spread the word as you do so well. Get your volunteers here and broaden your outreach, as we talked about earlier, to some new classmates. Thank you so much.
So that's going to be a pretty amazing night. And I think it's funny because I think that Penelia and everybody else had this in mind, but Jeff Pitts pointed it out that young men or young boys, one of the ways they learn is they need a competitive environment. And obviously it's no surprise that we're all doing this on the same night and we're all competing against each other. So I think it's going to be loud. There's going to be competition. Joe promised Emo's Pizza is still going to be there. Yes. So it's going to have the same format, but just very rambunctious. And we're going to try and raise a lot of money. So get as many people there as possible and definitely mark your calendar. So now for the school update, if Alan Carruthers could come up. Our new president.
Well, what have I learned tonight? I've learned that if you want to get more money from your classmates, threaten them with the biggest athlete in the class. I've learned that all of the different curriculum improvements that we've been thinking about, you guys have much better ideas out there. I've learned that Jeff Pitts is an incredible motivator, and also learned that this is a very fun bunch to be with. So I really enjoyed getting in contact and touching base with at least a few of you. It's hard to meet all of you because there's so many, and that's a great problem to have. So I've got probably about an hour and 20 minutes of stuff to talk about, so I'm not going to do that to you. But I figured you'd appreciate that. So I'm going to try to pick on some highlights. One of the things that I just want to stress is when Melissa talks about $4.1 million in financial aid, this school is also committed to keep tuition increases low. We're seeing in Jesuit high schools across the country that your average increase is around 6 to 8% annually. The school in the last few years is committed to around 2%. Just to put that in perspective, the actual cost of education when you consider health insurance and just teachers bump and pay through the step increases that occurs, and we're very fortunate that our faculty stay here, so they tend to get bumps, is around about a 4%. A lot of you guys are finance guys, you understand what the issue is there. But yet, we've been able to work ourselves towards 42% of our student body. I came from a Jesuit school with 1,700 kids, and we gave $4.1 million, and 27% of our kids were on financial aid. That was at Regis Jesuit in Denver, Colorado. So this school has done amazing things, and it's done it because of the work that you've done, and the fact that our endowment is what drives that financial aid reality. And it's critical that we continue to do that, because to get the endowment to $70 or $80 million will allow us to cover that expense in our annual budgetary process. And we can take some of the money that we can free up in that budget to begin to do the other things, the program pieces that Jeff is talking about, the innovation program, the improvement in curriculum, but it also will allow us to begin to rehab and renovate this campus and get ready for 100 years. I'm not a big one about building buildings. I think that this campus has a lot of square footage, but we have some pretty old buildings on campus. And those of you who live in Kirkwood or Webster in older homes know that there's a certain point where roofs and plumbing and those types of things need to be taken care of. So we've got a lot of things that we can do if we can get that amount of our funds in our endowment up, and I'm very excited to see where that goes in the next couple of years. One of the big program pieces that that I think is really important for us moving forward is also, you heard from Jeff and the fact that you've heard the development in the Cortex area of the city. St. Louis University High School is committed to this concept of innovation and project-based learning. We're also committed to our classic Jesuit liberal arts background as well, and combining those two things creates a powerful force in learning. To maintain that creativity and that classic knowledge and that theoretical basis, but also then to begin to learn those critical STEM skills that allow and prepare our boys for college and more importantly for the economy. So innovation and entrepreneurialism that is backed up by this sense of mission and service is really critical, I think, to motivating and energizing St. Louis. And I think that developments like Cortex and being in the city as we are, we're very fortunate to be in the city. It comes with issues and problems and transportation pieces where the population is, but it also comes with a great amount of opportunity. And I think that St. Louis University High School has been at the center of developing Catholic and community leaders in this city for 200 years. And as one alum said, you can't be in a boardroom in St. Louis and swing a cat and not hit a SLUH guy. And I think that that's critical to remember. We are about now creating innovators and creating leaders, Catholic leaders in our city, community responsible leaders who will allow this city to re-energize and find another powerful stage in its economic identity. And I think it starts with things like that innovation center downstairs, that innovation lab, and it starts with things like the Cortex, and it can grow from there. But we have to get behind that, and the Jesuits have always, St. Ignatius talked about the importance of imagination. The spiritual exercises are so much about imagination, about imagining. And the Jesuits have been kind of unwieldy and rebellious in the church at times and seen as that because they have been willing to imagine. One of my favorite Jesuit saints is Saint Jean Brebeuf. Here is a guy, comes from Europe, and these guys come across to what was the middle of nowhere. And they go into Huronia, they go into the land of the Mohawks, and they begin to try to spread this new idea. And the ways that they did that was, Brebeuf was the guy who carried the heaviest load. He was a big man, and he just would take, on the portages, he would take the biggest and heaviest load. And the warriors were so impressed by that he gained respect. Our job is to carry that heavy load. Just like those North American martyrs did when they came, our job is to carry that heavy load. And I think in St. Louis University High is in the perfect location for us to do that. Not only physically, but historically and spiritually. And I think that's our greatest gift. And I think that you individuals are critical to that reality. So with our present reality and our global reality, we are obviously having to talk about a lot of different things. We've got a huge curriculum program going on right now that's being led by Father Ian Gibbons, our principal. Our teachers have done phenomenal work over the last 2 years. And really this last summer was a monumental time in curriculum development. That's going to continue. We have our advanced ed visit, which is our certification visit basically coming up this year. And we're going to look to see where are our areas of growth, because that's important to know that in order to move forward. But I'm really excited what we're doing in the areas of project-based learning, cross-curricular integration, and pieces that will fit into to allow 75% of our students to be using that innovation lab in the basement. This is not just about robotics. It's not just about physics. It's about how do we envision learning differently as we move deeper into the 21st century. We also have the reality that we are where we are, and we have to think about security. I fortunately or unfortunately come from Colorado, and if you've read newspapers since the 90s, you know that us in Colorado in schools have had to learn very quickly, and because of many unfortunate events that we've had to experience. Regis Jesuit was a few miles from the theater shooting. It was only a few miles from Columbine, and even less from Arapahoe High School. We were unfortunately in the epicenter of some of the worst tragedies in high schools across the country over the last couple decades. The good thing that's come from that is a lot of good work has happened. And we are fortunate here because of both my personal connectivity, but also our Jesuit School Network connectivity. We do not have to reinvent the wheel. So prior to my arriving here, we hired Dan Schulte, Joel Schulte's son, who I know many of you are familiar with, a longtime St. Louis police officer who is now helping us as both assistant dean and also head of our security. I sent Dan and Dr. Brock Kesserson a list, a 2 to 3 page list of different items that I wanted them to take and transform into a 3 to 5 year security plan. And they've begun to do that. We all now are wearing IDs. We have moved to locked doors throughout the school day. We'll be readjusting how we do entry to have a double door locking system where card entry will eventually become part of that. We have readjusted how we utilize our daytime security to use them in a better and more efficient way. We will be training our faculty in a numerous amount of areas, including a FEMA program that was developed several years ago to encourage proper communication during crisis, both small and large crisis, and that's the Unified Command System, and we'll be training our folks in order to use that. We'll be adjusting our drilling system. We'll be adding monitored camera systems. We'll be modifying our entrance and access points in order to ensure safe entrance and access for both our students, but also our guests. And we'll be identifying single ports of entry in order to ensure that all people are screened through our new ID system. Where you arrive here now, you have to put your ID through a system. Many of you may be familiar. The most popular brand is something called Raptor system. We have a slightly different system, but very similar. You put your driver's license through it. It runs it through basically a legal database to see if you have any charges in your background, and then tells us whether you are good to come in, and if not, further screening will occur. So that has already been implemented. So we've got 3 to 5 years of things to work on. And I think the most important thing is identifying those pieces. Some of these pieces are a little bit more expensive than others. Obviously, when you start talking about door systems, et cetera, that's an expensive reality. So we're going to have to do it in an intelligent and responsible way when it comes to just managing our resources and being good stewards of those resources. So we've also numbered our classrooms from the exterior in order for first responders to be able to find access to the building efficiently. We have also reorganized our prefecting in order to ensure better supervision throughout the day. So that's some of the things that are happening on security. The great thing about having Dan here is that with the mounted police, which are just across in Forest Park, he knows all those folks. With the local St. Louis Police Department, he knows all those folks. And so improving those lines of communications and being able to access immediately those types of resources. So just to give you a little bit of an update of things that have happened this year, and then I'll tell you a little bit about myself if we have some time, but I didn't want to start out with that because I know there's so many incredible things going on here. I wanted to kind of get some of that download to you. We had direction days here after a very successful upward, or right before a very successful upward bound U7 and U8 program. We do the freshman direction days now in the beginning of June, and the days were moved in sort of to allow our freshmen to take summer classes, and all but a couple of our freshmen took those summer classes, which was great to see. We had 2 sessions of summer school from June 11th to August 4th, and the students did supplemental work in reading, grammar, math, as well as 10 sections of computer fundamentals and health. Our leadership teams worked on the curriculum review and advanced ed, as I mentioned earlier, which is our accreditation process throughout the summer. And we have a timeline that will lead us to our April 2nd to 3rd visitation. And then they will give us a feedback report a few weeks later, identifying several areas. And they do this all the time. They'll always identify areas for improvement. We had opening meetings for our faculty. Began with our new Ignatian educators on August 7th through 10th, and then the whole faculty met on August 13th and 15th. And we had a very successful, I think, startup, and school has been going very, very well. We have 250 freshmen, which is very good. We're very happy about that. And we have 10 transfer students, which means our total student census right now is 988. So we're in a healthy place. Major projects over the summer, other than the Innovation Lab, which is still ongoing, was we also, in part of that, we had to move the computer classrooms and IT offices, and we also renovated 2 additional science labs, and we'll be doing more next summer, which has been a great boon for our science department, who really to have modern science labs and experimental space, more areas in order to do cooperative learning and prepare for labs, while also still having flex space to do the traditional sort of lecture style teaching at times as well. We also had a very, very fortunate donation of the Madonna della Strada Retreat Center. For many, many years, St. Louis University High School has been using numerous different retreat houses for our retreat program. And unfortunately, many of those retreat houses are in very, very delicate financial reality. Now, I think White House is doing well, but in many cases, the retreat houses are struggling a little bit. So we have a plan to both expand our retreat program here. Our pastoral program has been incredibly successful over the years. And one of the great additions, of course, has been the Kairos retreat, which has really been profoundly impactful, I think, across the entire Jesuit school network on the kids that have experienced the Kairos retreat. And if we now have a retreat house of our own, our goal is to make it Kairos compatible, which is our largest retreat. That will make our ability to calendar much more straightforward and much easier, because we won't have to rely on different dates. And remember, we already are putting out tens of thousands of dollars in rental fees, etc., every year. So over time, the retreat center will not only pay for itself, it'll also help us from a calendaring standpoint, which if you've ever worked on a school calendar in a place that is as busy as SLUH, you'll understand how complicated and difficult that can become. So that we've been very, very fortunate to have that opportunity. It's in Silex, Missouri, which is a good proximity to here. It's about an hour's drive in good traffic for those of you who head down Farty, as you say. So we're very excited about that opportunity, and we'll be having actually the Fathers Club will be taking a group of young men and fathers out there September 15th to do some work, some cleanup, some initial cleanup. Then we'll have to do a little bit of renovations to get it up to speed, mostly some bathroom work, etc., in order to house that large retreat. We administered over 1,000 advanced placement or AP exams for nearly 500 students. 190 of our students were named AP scholars. This recognition is given to multiple scores of 3 or higher, and our average score was 3.92. Another 79 students received the status of AP Scholar with distinction, averaging 3.5 on all their exams and 3 or higher on 5 or more of their exams. 13 of our young men were cited as National AP Scholars, which averages 4 on all exams and 4 or higher on 8 or more exams. That's an incredible feat. We have a lot of smart young men here, and we're very blessed to have that. I think that the ACT exam continues to be nationally, at least for now, a very important bellwether for academic success in schools. And our exam we gave to our juniors this year as well, as an opportunity to prepare them for the transition. And 236 members of the class of 2019 took the exam, and 47 scored 33 or higher. 6 received the highest possible score of 36, and 11 earning 35. That's on the practice exam. So now it is the actual exam, but it was supposed to be their practice opportunity. I just want to put that in perspective. There are many Jesuit schools and private schools across the country who may get 136 every couple years. In our juniors practice opportunity, 6 got perfect. Last year, our seniors, 7 got perfect. So this junior class potentially could have somewhere between 6 and possibly 11 perfect scores on the ACT. That is an incredible, incredible testament to our teachers and to the talent of our young men that we have here. And that's what we will need to do to continue to be relevant and I think impactful within the leadership of the St. Louis community. We also, as the U.S. Department of Education, awarded us green ribbon status. The Holy Father had asked us in Laudato Si and elsewhere that all Catholic institutions and Catholics in general begin to think more about sustainability as not a political issue, but rather as a moral issue. And so we have put a lot of work into increasing and improving our sustainability. We have a lot of work to do around here, but being recognized as a green ribbon status school, last year only 46 total American schools won this award, and I believe we're the first Jesuit school to be a recipient. So very, very fortunate to do that. All right, tell you a little bit about myself. I've got a few minutes. How am I doing? Time? So St. Louis University High School is my fourth Jesuit institution that I've worked at. Mark Burns and I worked together at Rockhurst High School many years ago. And I think I pulled you into lacrosse at some point, didn't I? Which then led him to 15 plus years of being a referee or an official. I have taught social studies. I'm a history teacher. That's my first passion. And I've also taught theology and English. I'm a Canadian. I went to St. Paul's Jesuit High School in Winnipeg. I grew up in far northern Manitoba in a tiny little town called The Pas. Don't look for it on your map. You probably have a tough time finding it. But I went down to a Jesuit school for high school, and it was a game changer. I was a financial aid kid, and I was very blessed to have two parents who believed that education was the way to change direction. My dad was a railroad worker and a mechanic for CNR, and my mom worked at a local hospital. The Jesuits were inspirational to me, and I really did not know what to do with my life, as many of us don't at the beginning of college. And I was telling Dan earlier that I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, and then I worked for the Canadian Department of Justice and realized that was probably not going to work long term. And so a Jesuit, again, pushed me towards teaching. And it was the best decision I ever made. And I ended up, through that connection with that same Jesuit, having my first teaching job at Rockhurst High School, where I also was the head lacrosse coach and started the first lacrosse program on that side of Missouri way back when there was very few lacrosse programs even on this side of the state in the early 90s. I also was a football coach. I've coached football over the years of my career for 22 years at the high school level, including at Rockhurst High School and St. Paul's. And I've also been a rugby coach and a drama producer. So that may sound like a weird combination, but remember, I'm Jesuit educated. So the fact is that I love that opportunity to work with young men. I've always been a coach. I've always worked in drama because it was just fun. It was great. At some point when I was an assistant principal and I was coaching two sports, including being a head coach, my wife turned to me and said, okay, you've got to choose. So I chose to continue coaching rugby, which is my true love. I gave up coaching football so that I could actually be home every once in a while. So it's been a great journey in Jesuit education. I could never have imagined that I'd be standing in front of you here at St. Louis University High School, which I know you know this, but at a North American level, SLUH High really is, you know, and I think sometimes we have a problem with humility at SLUH High, but I want to say that SLUH High is a very, very special place. And the reason I say it is because so many of the great Jesuits I've worked with, so many of the great teachers I've worked with in other schools came from SLUH High. The amount of vocations and the amount of alum service corps and the amount of great teachers in other Jesuit schools that call this place their foundation or their home is unbelievable. So not only has, I think, SLUH High had an impact on the St. Louis community, it really has an impact on the entire, certainly what was the old Missouri province, and certainly what we call the United States Central and Southern province, but really I think nationally as well. So this is a great place to end up, and I couldn't have imagined to be here, and I'm so fortunate and blessed, very fortunate and blessed to stand on the shoulders of the giants like all you and the alumni have gone before you, and great leaders like Father Paul Sheridan, who I've worked with before and I'm very happy to work with again, Father Tom Cummings, and of course Dave Laughlin, who I've known from from way back at Rockhurst in our first iteration in Kansas City. So the school's in a great place. We've got a lot of work to do and some great opportunities ahead of us. I'm excited to be here. You know, at heart, I'm a teacher. I love young people. I love young men, working with them. I love seeing them being inspired. I met with my president's ambassadors today, and you know what? We're all in good hands. What a great, tremendously wonderful group of young men. I asked them at the end, you know, if they hadn't met me yet, to come up and introduce themselves. And every boy, even on their activity period, came up and introduced themselves, shook my hand, told me what they liked to do, told me what they liked about SLUH High. And you know what? That's the best part of being here. We have incredibly inspirational teachers, but I think even more so, we have incredibly inspirational young men. And you guys set the tone, and those who have gone before you set the tone. And we are at a 200-year institution, and we're going to go strongly into the next 100 years, and we're going to be here, and we're going to take St. Louis to new heights. So I really appreciate your time and for being here and all the work that you're going to do this year and have done previously. And I'm really excited to get to November 16th and see the great things that are going to happen. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thanks very much. Man, you know, when somebody talks like that, you're going to end up having to give more money. No notes or anything. That was unbelievable. To wrap this up, there's going to be a memorial mass for John on September 8th. It's a Saturday, if you have that ability to make that. There's a SLUH Soccer 75th anniversary celebration on Thursday, September 20th. The soccer alumni and reunion class alumni are invited along with their guests and families. There's a 1-hour pregame here in the Commons. There'll be beer and chips, free tickets to the game for all who come to the party. At halftime, former soccer players will be invited on the field with a ceremony and a photo. Reunion night at SLUH, Friday, September. Yeah, no, not at all. You're the president. Reunion night at SLUH, Friday, September 21st. It's actually a reunion year for me, which is a lot of fun. Joe needs volunteers. Volunteering is actually a lot of fun. I know there was a 95 guy over there. My brother was 95. When 95 had their reunion, I volunteered. I drove a golf cart, and I had an iPad or whatever in the cart and played some music, and I had some beer. They let me drink. You can come in and have a couple beers and everything. But I drove people back and forth to their cars. That's all I did. And it was probably the most fun I've had in years. So whether you're driving a golf cart or doing sign up, it's not like an all night thing. It's a lot of fun. So if you can help out, please do. And then other people will do it for you when you have your reunion. So again, go see Joe. Scholarship Golf Classic. It's the Monday after reunion Friday. That we need volunteers. They don't let you drink there, but we do need volunteers for that as well. Joe also has a sign-up sheet. That's obviously a huge tournament. That's the tournament where you pay, I don't know, what, $1,000 or something. So it's a big money raiser for the school. It's a big deal. You can win a car. Bob Wacker's going to win a car. Graham's going to win a car. There's a flyer on your table for that if you want to do it and you're not signed up, and you can put a team together. The Alumni Mass of Remembrance, Saturday, November 10th at 4 p.m. I will not. On your table, Mikey Trivia is October 20th. So between that, October 20th, doors open at 6, trivia starts at 7. If you didn't know Mikey Palumbo, which I did not, all I know about Mikey Palumbo is that a lot of guys really love that guy and really cared about him because his buddies and his family throw some of the most amazing tournaments and events. They raise a ton of money doing it. It goes to SLUH, I believe. PCP, does it go to a Loyola kid? It goes to a Loyola kid here at the U High. So if you didn't know Mikey, I can tell you that he was amazing because of the work that they do. So they're very committed to it. Everybody loves trivia, so come to that. And then obviously, the massive phone-a-thon. This is the big one, so please put it on your calendars. Please tell all your buddies. Get everybody that you can from your classes to come do it. It's a competition. It's going to be a lot of fun. Usually this is the time where I'd invite everybody to Favaz's for a drink. I have out-of-town family in, but I'm sure Mick will go to Favaz's with you and have a few. Our next meeting is the Advent Mass and Brunch, Saturday, December 2nd. And I think that concludes what we're doing here today. Thanks, everybody.